This video is sponsored by Bethesda. Greetings, heroes of Tamriel and future soldiers of Apocrypha. I'm Cal, and today we are back in ESO checking out the new city of Necrom, along with all the other content in the Shadow over Morrowind chapter for the Elder Scrolls Online. And yes, you did hear that correctly, Bethesda is sponsoring today's video. Y'all know I love the Elder Scrolls Online, and I haven't been this excited for a new chapter in a long time. Obviously, now is a great time to jump into the Elder Scrolls Online, whether you're brand new to the game or a veteran considering coming back to check out some of the new content. The Elder Scrolls Online Necrom is bringing the goods. Not only are we visiting the Telvanni Peninsula for new stories and quests, but we're also delving into Hermaeus Mora's Realm of Apocrypha, which feels completely different from any other zone in ESO to date. Then we're getting a brand new class with new gameplay mechanics, the Arcanist. On top of that, there is, of course, all of the chapter content you would expect. Sanity's Edge is the new 12-player trial for large groups. There's new world events called Bastion Nymics, which we'll check out later in this video. There's new world bosses, public dungeons, delves, and collectibles as well. We're also getting new antiquities, first introduced in the Greymoor chapter, 2 more companions, first introduced in the Blackwood chapter, and a new card deck for Tales of Tribute, first introduced in the High Isle chapter. Personally, I love that these secondary game systems keep getting expanded with each new chapter. At this point, it sort of feels like Antiquities, Companions, and Tales of Tribute have always been part of the ESO experience. And I think the continued support for these systems reinforces the idea that these weren't just one-off experiments, but instead were part of a longer-term strategy to diversify the content and user experience in ESO. Perhaps best of all, though, Necrom is bringing with it 2 new homes that you can purchase with in-game gold, and a slew of new collectibles that can be earned in-game as well. For the first time ever in ESO, there's a unique mount you can earn through zone exploration. This is something I've wanted to see ever since I started playing, and I even touched on the subject in an old video. Personally, I'd love to see more of this in the future. When it comes to earning collectibles, mounts are the top tier, and I'm very glad to see the Necrom chapter making this a reality for ESO fans. Of course, we've always had collectibles that could be earned through in-game means, but for the most part, they fell into what I would consider lower tier categories. Lower tier meaning that they're less visible, less flashy, and often less thematically relevant, or at least the connection is more tenuous. For example, a title is cool and all, but most players probably won't see it, and even if they do, they probably won't know where you earned it without looking up the associated achievement. But a Barrel Glow Nixox steed? That's very visible. That's very obvious. When you see one of your fellow players riding around on it, you'll know they put some time into the Telvanni Peninsula and Apocrypha. They might even be the savior of Necrom. So kudos to the devs. I love it, and I hope there's more to come. But that's not all. In addition to the earnable mount, there's also a new outfit style, a new costume, tons of new antiquities, lots of cool collectibles you can earn just by playing through the Necrom chapter. I'd like to hope that this is the new normal for in-game earnable collectibles in ESO. Now, you guys know that I would love to do a full preview of everything the Necrom chapter includes, which of course is bringing new armor sets, more companions like I mentioned earlier, and a new Tales of Tribute deck. But that's a little too much for one video. So once again, today we're taking a deep dive on the new content that really matters: housing, furnishings, and city planning. You all knew this was coming, right? We'll talk Arcanist and Bastion Nymics in a minute, but this is a channel dedicated to the true in-game. And this time around, we're not just getting a new in-room, but there will also be a large home in Necrom that you can purchase with gold. Emissary's Enclave is located in the heart of Necrom, and it can be purchased for 1.3 million gold after you complete the Necrom Grand Adventurer achievement. But of course, if we're talking Necrom homes, we've got to talk about our new hub city. So to that end, I've been exploring the new capital city of Necrom, and it has a really unique layout and aesthetic. After 3 chapters where the main city was based on some pretty classic medieval architecture, Necrom is going to feel way different. But for all the classic Morrowind fans out there, I'm sure this is just what you were hoping for. Here are some of my favorite things about the new hub city, and why I'm moving most of my characters there for their daily routine. Alright everybody, let's talk about the general city vibes. Here we are, Necrom. From the first trailer reveal, I really love the rock spires in the background. It's so ominous and monumental. Necrom just hits different, and one of the first things I noticed as a longtime ESO thief, there are so many urns to steal from. This sacred city of the dead is about to get disrespected. As you're wandering around, you'll also notice that a large portion of the city is either indoors or underground. It's one of the things that helps make Necrom feel more unique. The crafting area in particular is reminiscent of some of my favorite MMO capitals, and it's just generally generally a cool place to hang out. It is too bad that the banker isn't more conveniently located this time around, but it's still close enough for daily use. I also am a really big fan of the new Necrom set pieces, decorations, and furnishings scattered throughout the city. They represent a similar departure from the more classically styled and themed decorations and furnishings of the past 3 chapters. The new Necrom carts in particular are going to make really good pieces for banker and merchant setups in player homes, assuming of course that they are something that we can craft or collect via some other means. One thing I did want to touch on is that I think the placement of the guild traders in Necrom is actually really smart. They are directly in the path from the crafting area to the banker. Also, that happens to be right next to the Writ Turn-In and the Way Shrine. So this might make Necrom a more important trading hub than the last few chapter cities, just because of that convenience. The guild traders aren't in line of sight from the Way Shrine, and it can be a little bit difficult to orient yourself when you first port in, but that proximity along the most obvious daily writ to banker route is going to give the traders a lot of visibility that the traders in Gonfalon Bay, Leowyn, and Solitude just don't get. Crafting stations and the daily writ turn-in also seem pretty well thought out. I like that the eastern half of Necrom is kind of trading and crafting focused. If you hate doors, but you can get by without a trip to the stable master or the banker, then this could be your new daily writ city. I'm betting it's not quite as quick as Leowyn, but it is a nice change of scenery, and it's going to be in that A tier for daily writ cities for sure. One of the things I always like to do when we get a new city is check out the Outlaw's Refuge. I think that these underground spaces are so cool and unique throughout ESO. The Outlaw's Refuge in Necrom is no exception to that rule, and it feels like a more natural extension of the city since a portion of Necrom is already indoors or underground. Oh, and while I was doing my initial exploration for this video, I discovered that Emissary's Enclave has a direct connection to the Outlaw's Refuge. That's huge. How did we not know about this? Because of that, the new large home is basically a must-buy for me. And since we're already talking about Emissary's Enclave, this large home is massive. It's not exactly my style. Everything feels a little too large and ornate for my particular style of furnishing, but there is a lot of potential here. This definitely feels more on the sci-fi side of things than fantasy, which kind of makes sense given the general theme of this chapter. There's also some really cool spaces throughout the home. I love the main hall with the double stairway. You also get multiple balconies and terraces, which are going to be fun to furnish. It's just a ton of outdoor space to decorate, and it's got some cool views. Since this is a large home, it does come with a 600 traditional furnishing limit. I'm probably going to block off 1 or 2 of the wings just so I have a few extra furnishing slots to use on the main hall, or just focus on the outdoor space. Ultimately, this is a pretty sick house, and it's the only house in the game that gives you direct access to an Outlaw's Refuge. The fence NPC is also just on the other side of that access point. I know a lot of people out there like Sleek Creek for its close proximity to an Outlaw's Refuge, but this home kind of beats Sleek Creek on proximity and convenience. I'm gonna say it, I think this is the home for all the ESO thieves out there. Okay, so we talked about the new large home, let's talk about the new in-room. Journey's Inn Lodgings gives you the standard 30 traditional furnishing slots, just like all the other in-rooms throughout ESO. It's fairly symmetrical, and I think it probably has the largest square footage and cubic footage of any of the in-rooms. This room is spacious. Of course, it's got a similar style and architecture to the new large home, and I love that the in-room also gets the more ornate ceiling tile pattern. I'm not sure what direction I'll take this one in yet, but you guys know I'll be furnishing it sooner or later, and I think this might be one that's primed for a full conversion. Okay, now that we've talked about the new homes, let's talk about some of the new furnishings. I think all of the new Necrom achievement furnishings are absolute fire. They are so good. They're definitely more set pieces than anything, but they kind of make me want to design a whole room around them. Also, from the looks of the Final Rest furnishing store, the Necrom paintings that you can collect from treasure chests throughout the zone are also looking really snazzy. Also, it looks like there's some very interesting Apocrypha themed plants on the home goods merchant, maybe even a bit bioluminescent. I love it. Usually pieces like this are a little bit harder to come by, primarily from the luxury goods furnisher, which means that they're only going to show up 1 week out of the year and they're going to be a little bit more expensive. Now that we've gotten the important stuff out of the way, I want to talk a little bit about the new class, the new world events, and the scale of the chapter in general. The Telvanni Peninsula feels a little bit smaller, probably closer in size to maybe the Reach or Galen. Apocrypha, on the other hand, feels massive. This is a big zone. I think all told, this is probably a little bit more territory to explore than we've seen in the last couple chapters. There just seems to be a lot of ground to cover in Necrom, which is a good thing. Overall, I do dig the new aesthetics. Most of it feels so alien and different from pretty much anything we've adventured through in ESO to date. And I love that the new city and housing options are bringing some new twists and features to the game. All right, let's talk a little bit about that new class and those new world events. The Arcanist feels really well designed right out of the gate. The animations for their abilities are top-notch, as you'd expect from the most recent addition to ESO, and the Crux system also represents an entirely new take on combat. I haven't really played enough of the Arcanist yet to get into min-maxing, overall strategy, or to be able to say how well balanced it is or isn't, but I can say it is really fun to play. The sound effects are great, and right away you get some really fun abilities. One of my favorite features though is that this is the first class to have a class-based taunt. That's new to the game, and since I'm planning to play my Arcanist as a tank, at least initially, it's super helpful to have. I think the most important thing for this chapter was delivering a new class that's fun and interesting to play, and we got it. It's been a few years since the Necromancer was added, and we really needed a new class to mix things up here in the Elder Scrolls Online. I actually can't wait to finish editing this video just so I can get back to leveling up my Arcanist. Okay, one last thing I really wanted to touch on were the new world events. Personally, I'm a big fan of world events, public quests, zone encounters, whatever you want to call them. So let's talk about Bastion Nymics. These events are honestly very different from what we've seen before in ESO. I went in assuming they were just a twist on the Daedric portals from the Blackwood chapter, but Bastion Nymics feel more like an actual 4-player dungeon than a public dungeon, which is what those Daedric portals sort of felt like to me. At least one player will need to farm up Ichor from Herald Seekers to activate the gate to the Bastion Nymic, and then up to 4 players can go through the activated gate to challenge the Herald that has taken control of that Nymic. I've only run a couple so far, but it seems like there are slight variations you can take once you're inside the Bastion Nymic. The overall difficulty feels about on par with a veteran dungeon, even when run with 4 players. I'm sure you can definitely complete a Bastion Nymic with fewer, but I wouldn't recommend diving into one of these solo unless you're looking for bragging rights, of course. On the other hand, encountering one of those Herald's Seekers in the overworld does feel sort of like a roaming world boss. They're manageable solo for veteran players, but they also have mechanics that will actively alert nearby players to their presence in the ongoing battle, so that you can join in even if you didn't spot one right away. All around, I think it feels pretty intuitive. Now, I was actually planning to wrap up this video right there, but I had to unlock at least one of the new companions to check them out. And let's just say, friendship ended with Miri. Sharp as Night is my new best friend. His whole personality is great. The voice actor is amazing. He doesn't mind a little thievery or casual assassination, so long as you're not targeting the poorest citizens of Tamriel. And he's a warden to boot. I can't wait to pair him up with my warden for maximum Shulk explosion madness. Now, if you haven't already picked up Necrom, I would highly recommend doing so using the link in the description below. This chapter represents one of the largest additions to the game to date, and you're definitely going to want to visit Necrom and Apocrypha. You're going to want to collect these new homes and antiquities. And of course, you're probably going to want to recruit Sharp as Night to be your adventuring companion for future travels through Tamriel and beyond. The Elder Scrolls Online Necrom is available now on PC and is coming to Xbox and PlayStation on June 20th. As always, I want to say thank you to my patrons for supporting my channel, and give a massive thank you to Bethesda for sponsoring today's video. Alright, heroes of Tamriel, I'm going to call it there for today. I hope you enjoyed this quick preview of the new city and amenities of Necrom, along with some of the great new content in this chapter. Be sure to subscribe for more ESO content. Until next time, safe travels through Apocrypha. Bye for now, everybody.